Yeah, knowledge needs to have, and I'll say it, knowledge needs to have a reservoir. Knowledge needs to have a place where it can be applied, right? We need applied knowledge, right? We need...
Welcome to The Talk Chamber, a production of the Greater Memphis Chamber. The Talk Chamber is the podcast for the latest on the Chamber, economic development, and all things Memphis. This mic is powered by Ortho South, world-class orthopedic care all across the Mid-South. Today's episode features the CEO of Peer Power, Cortney Richardson. Cortney, thank you so much for coming on the Talk Chamber today.
Taylor, and thank you for having me on the Talk Chamber. You've done quite the job with this studio here.
Thank you so much. We are thrilled to have you on and excited to finally get you out here to the studio to talk. And to kick us off, could you just tell us your Memphis story? How'd you end up here?
My Memphis story. How did I end up here? My mama and daddy are both Memphians. My father has passed away, but my mom and dad were both born in Memphis. And so I'm a Memphian by birth and by choice. I love Memphis. I fell in love with Memphis probably when I was in middle school or so. I knew that Memphis was a special place or is a special place. And I've been committed to helping people see that. You know, I have friends that move away and they come to these epiphanies really about themselves, which, let me say, I think that is what Memphis must do. Memphis must have an epiphany about itself in order for it to know, in order for her to know how great she is. And so my friends go away and then they have these epiphanies about how great Memphis really is. And it's like, yeah. So they come home and stay for like a month.
Yeah.
They stay for like a month, although they've relocated because they know that Memphis has something special, and I know that too.
It sure does. Now let's ask the Memphis question.
Yes.
Where did you go to high school?
Where did I go to high school? The only high school in Memphis, which is East High School. Everything else is a counterfeit. Everything else is a counterfeit. Everything else.
I mean, if you asked my colleague next door, Julian Cross, what the high school was, he'd say it's the Central High School.
And I'd say, now what is that? I'd say, what is that?
So kind of speaking of origins, what is the origins of Peer Power? How did it get its start?
So Memphis is known for having high in philanthropic support, right? We're the most philanthropic city. And our founder, Charlie McVane, who's a Memphis guy as well, saw that there was a crisis in public education, and particularly in high school. What he knew and what we know is that high school is the last opportunity that we really get to prepare young people for the workforce or college, right? And so at that time, schools were failing. Young people were not graduating with the support. Did not get the support that they needed while they were in high school that would produce what we know high schools should produce. And so Charlie said, I got to go back to my alma mater and see how I can help. And I think his intention was to go and write a check one time. But as with any good business person, when they commit to something, they follow it along, right? And so at that time, 2004, there was a group of high school students that were chosen who were the cream of the crop in the school to tutor and mentor their peers after school, right? Because we believe that and still believe that the most underutilized asset in today's society is the upper end of inner city youth, right? These are young people who are faced with the same challenges that their peers are faced with, but they have found a way to succeed. And so we want to employ those young people to be tutors and mentors for their peers. And what we saw were double-digit academic gains, and we also saw there was a group that he called Charlie's Angels because not only did they reach proficiency, but they were advanced in just like a semester of tutoring. And so that's the origin story. And we've since gone from being one after-school program where we hired high school students to now, at this current time, we have about 143 college students that work for us that are deployed across the city in nine different schools. And you're going to hear it here on Talk Chamber. We also have a program in Louisville, Kentucky. Absolutely.
Wow. I can't wait to hear about that.
So yeah.
So how did you end up involved with Peer Power? How'd you get to the CEO role?
Now, that's an interesting story because I told you that there were a group of high school students in 2004. They were 11th and 12th grade students who were identified as leaders in the school who would tutor their peers after school, right? I was always friends with people who were older than I was. So my friends got called to a meeting. I was in the 10th grade. My friends got called to a meeting that I did not get called to. So what did Cortney do? Look, Cortney bust into the meeting.
Of course.
Saying, what is this that's going on? And so I was the 10th grade student at that time in 2004 who was amongst those 11th and 12th grade students who were chosen to be the founding tutors, right? And I ended up being amongst those young people, my peers, and that was when I was in the 10th grade in 2004. And here we are 21 years later. And again, I've seen the program grow from one after-school program to be what it is now. And there have been so many people along the way who've been significant in the metamorphosis and growth of Peer Power Foundation. And so, hey, nonprofit work, you do a little bit of everything. Your title is one thing, but you do a little bit of everything. And so I remember being asked to go on a trip out of town to advocate for Peer Power. And it was a private fundraiser for President George Bush.
Ooh.
And so I had the opportunity to go and talk to him while I was in high school about Peer Power. And his wife, Laura Bush, about 3 months later, inquired, hey, there was a young man that talked to us about a program in Memphis. How is that going, right? And so I've been advocating for Peer Power, talking about it, helped to build a relationship with the University of Memphis and with the University of Memphis and Peer Power Foundation in 2015 when we switched our model. And so, hey, here we are now. And I did not think that I would be in the CEO seat. It was not what I was looking for. I'm a singer, Taylor Ann. I travel internationally singing gospel music. And so that's what I was doing, right? I went to seminary, right?
Oh, my gosh.
So I'm going to preach and sing the gospel. And now I'm singing and preaching the gospel of Peer Power, which is within the gospel of Jesus Christ as well. So I'm good. I'm good with it.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of makes me ask a follow-up question. What was the moment for you where you realized that Peer Power did something special and that peer mentoring could truly transform those lives?
Yeah, that's an interesting question for me because I grew up with Peer Power, and
Right.
I don't know. It was Greater East High Foundation at first, and then the name changed to Peer Power Foundation. I didn't grow up without Peer Power, right? I was in the 10th grade. My mom is a teacher to this day. My family is a service-focused family, right? My grandmother is the one who would just take care of people. My grandmother and my mama T, they would always say people are important, right? Like focusing on people, serving people, using your power to uplift others, right? And so Peer Power is a natural fit for me. And I realized the impact of Peer Power specifically, though, when Mario Fortney, who was one of the first tutors in the organization, had a young man who, at that time we called them, took resource classes. So he was not planned. It was not expected that this young man would get a normal diploma.
Mm-hmm.
He would get a certificate of attendance because he was neurodivergent, and they just did not expect him to pass any tests, right? Mario Fortney tutored and mentored this young man. He took the gateway test at the time and got those results back, and that young man passed all of his gateway tests, and he was able to graduate with a diploma.
Wow.
A full-fledged diploma. He then matriculated to go to Southwest Community College once he graduated. And so it's stories like that that showed me how significant tutoring and mentoring together are.
That sounds like a really powerful moment, and I'm sure that there are more stories like that you guys have in your history. But for those people who are unfamiliar with the peer power model, could you kind of just give us a breakdown and what makes peer power stand out?
Yeah. So what makes us stand out is that we're not a one-ply or one-dimensional model. So you hear mentoring, you hear tutoring, and there are organizations that are just phenomenal at those things. But just imagine tutoring and mentoring coming together to have a child, and that's peer power, right? Because children and young people need both. You can teach people lessons in class, but those young people need lessons in life as well. You can teach young people lessons in life, but they need to also excel in class, right? And so our model allows for us to hire college students, University of Memphis students, namely, right? University of Memphis is a significant partner, the largest institution here in Memphis. They are R1 institution. We are an R1 institution. I bleed blue as well and have tiger stripes.
We sure are.
Let me be clear about that. But we hire students from the University of Memphis and deploy them out during the day to be inside of classrooms with teachers to help close the gaps that exist. And these are holistic gaps, academic gaps, social and emotional gaps. And we see gains, right? And so that's what makes our model different. The other piece that makes our model different is that we are in the high school space. So we are the only provider of the services that we provide for high school students during the day, right? Mm-hmm. And that's across the state. And so there's opportunity for us not just to be here in Memphis, but for us to spread across the state and help with closing some of the gaps that exist in the high school space.
You talked about you employing these college students as the mentors and the tutors for high school students, but how do you train and equip college students to go back to where they were just a few years ago and tutor and mentor and, become
That's right.
a good one?
Yeah. And we call them success coaches is what we call them. So we get those college students, we train them, and we give them holistic training. A funding group recently said that one of the differences between our model and some of the other tutoring models is how much we invest in our success coaches. So our tutoring is about 3 weeks of our training is 3 weeks of training in the summertime. And our success coaches also come back once a month to be trained as well. They are trained on content, right? We can't deploy college students to be tutors and mentor success coaches, and they are not sharpened on the content. So we make sure there's a cadence where we bring level 4 and level 5 teachers in to train those success coaches on the content. But we also train them on how to identify when young people are dealing with things emotionally and how to zero in on those things, support them quickly, and then get them on track academically. And so it is, let me say, training that my team has built that has been awarded by Johns Hopkins University as well as Stanford University. So, and we have also helped Johns Hopkins University Partnership for Student Success build this type of training for other organizations across the nation. So we're proud, of course, of our training, but we've engaged college professors, we've engaged high school teachers, we've also engaged psychologists and psychiatrists and therapists in building our training so that our success coaches can be prepared to support teachers, of which right now we're supporting about 83 teachers at this current time.
Wow.
It is just, so that training is significant, and that is one of the differences in our model as well.
So before we kind of move into a few other topics, I want to focus on Louisville for a minute.
Okay.
What happened there? How did it start in Louisville? How'd you get there?
Interesting that you talk about that. So we believe that our model helps to prepare young people for the workforce, right? And so we have success coaches that come and work with us who decide they want to go into education. They come in one major, organizational leadership major, criminal justice major, physical therapist, all that. Then they get an inside look of what really happens inside of schools, and they say, I really can do this. So we have many of our success coaches. More than 150 have gone into education. One of those individuals went into education and works in Louisville School District. And when Louisville's school district was looking for high quality tutoring and mentoring services, that former success coach said, I know just the program, and it was the program that he was a part of when he was a student at the University of Memphis.
Wow.
Isn't that something?
That is awesome.
And
that is so cool.
And so we are in Louisville now providing our services to students there. And it is just amazing to see that type of impact. He's in the workforce there. He's not from Memphis, let me say. He's not from Memphis. So he stayed in Memphis for a while. Then he went to Louisville. But we have young people all over the place.
That is awesome. Yeah. How long has that been going on? How long have y'all been in Louisville?
About 3 years.
Good
We've kind of kept it hush-hush. But because this is the talk chamber, we can release some of that here.
You got it.
Right.
We get the exclusive, everybody.
That's it.
So thank you so much for sharing the exclusive with us.
If you want an exclusive, Taylor Ann, just call me anytime.
Oh, I will. Workforce.
Yes.
You keep saying workforce.
Absolutely.
How does this all play into workforce?
Yeah. Here's what we understood as well very early on. In 2004, Charlie went to Perkins. I was about to say Piccadilly. Perkins or Piccadilly, one of those places. And there was a student from East High School who was a stellar young lady who served him. He reached in his pocket to give her a tip. The only cash he had in his pocket was a $10 bill. He gave that young lady that $10 bill, and he had the thought, what if we hire high-performing high school students to tutor and mentor their peers and pay them $10 an hour?
Mm.
These are young people who are working jobs that don't necessarily prepare them for what their next steps are, right? So one way that this impacts the workforce most immediately is we're taking a group of young people who need resources, who have excelled, and we're giving them a job to be success coaches, tutors, and mentors to their peers. So now you've built in a group of cool young people who are making learning cool, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's one way, right? It's immediate. These are homes. These are young people who are from homes that need more resources. So they are a workforce. So we've created a workforce. But what happens while they're with us is they learn skills. They learn communication skills. They learn how to problem solve on the spot. They learn how to be engaged in teamwork. They learn how to, they learn critical thinking, right? There are a lot of folks, employers are saying college students are graduating with degrees, but they don't have the soft skills that are necessary for succeeding in the workplace, right? Well, when they work with Peer Power, they're getting all of those skills. They're getting reasoning skills. Just let me say that Julian Cross, who works here at the chamber, is a former Peer Power success coach, right?
Indeed.
Right? He was my intern, by the way. Cortney Blanchard, who works here at the chamber, is a former Peer Power success coach. And so when we start talking about young people having skills that really sets them apart, I think Julian is not 30, right? I won't tell Courtney's age, but Cortney is young as well. And I know for a fact that she gained skills while she was working for us that helped her that were able to be transferred over into the workplace. And so that's some theoretical stuff. But we're hiring folks and they're staying in the city. That is significant. We are giving these college students that we're hiring as well an opportunity to be a part of the Young Professionals Council with the Chamber. We are, you all invited some of our young people to the mayoral forum. So those college students, about 20 of them were in rooms with employers, and they are now writing me talking about how they were impacted by that experience, right? They're in the workforce. Not only that for the college students, but the high school students are learning what they need to learn so that we can close this gap and they can be college and or career ready by the time they graduate high school. This opportunity youth piece, we have a large population of opportunity youth because we are failing them at the high school level. You are an opportunity youth because you graduated from high school and were not prepared to go directly into the career or into college. That is failure. And what we need to do is increase our concentration of peer power success coaches inside of schools and this model so that we can continue to close this gap inside of many of our failing schools.
It's just awesome to see the passion that you have about peer power and about educating our youth. But then I just love what you were saying about creating those soft skills and those transferable skills. I mean, you know, Cortney might not directly do what she was doing with peer power, but she's learning, she had those skills.
That's right.
And now she's applying them to her job here at
That's
the Chamber.
right.
Same with Julian, and I'm sure same with so many other success coaches that you've had. And then just with the high school students and making them ready to go on to whatever's next.
That's right.
That is, I feel like a lot of your young teenage years, it's, you know, you're preparing in middle school, you're preparing to go to high school, but in high school, you're preparing to go on to either the career world or college or some sort of secondary, post-secondary education opportunity, trade school, whatever. But we're only giving them knowledge. And even then, sometimes they're not getting the knowledge that they need.
That's right.
To move on.
Yeah, knowledge needs to have, and I'll say it, knowledge needs to have a reservoir. Knowledge needs to have a place where it can be applied, right? We need applied knowledge, right?
Yeah.
We need, the Chamber has the opportunity for teachers, externships with teachers, right? So that teachers can go inside of these businesses and learn what's happening in these businesses so that while they're teaching young people, they can begin to prepare young people for the reality of what's coming when they graduate. Those things are important, and education needs to be like Sally Parrish's University Schools Innovative School District. It needs to be project-based learning that bridges what's going to happen in the workforce with what's happening in school buildings. And if we don't do that, we are failing young people. That's why we need industry professionals to adopt schools, to be engaged in schools, not just pencil drives, not just backpack drives. We need industry professionals to say, this is the direction that the industry is going in. Chemistry classes, biology classes, English classes. Create a class, right? Create a class that prepares them for the future. I love the University of Memphis's Polytechnic now. It allows for our provost, Rusamano, and our president, Dr. Hardgrave, to meet the demands of the workforce sooner than 4 years, right? Sooner than even 2 years. Our high school spaces need to respond to the needs of the workforce in that same way, right? If we're going to graduate young people and they're going to be ready.
And that's what we want. And that's, I mean, what we hear from employers is that they want employees who are ready to work.
That's it. That's it.
Who are equipped to work.
That's right.
And have what they need to be successful.
That's right.
Because their success is ultimately the success of the business.
That's right. That's right. And soft skills are the game changer. Like, if ever, I tell the college students, if everyone gets the same degree, what is the differentiator between you and the other people with that degree? It's your soft skills. It's your soft skills. Can you have a conversation? Are you likable? People like to hire and work with people who are likable. Now, that may not work for HR conversations. Right. You can't fire somebody because you don't like them. But people like to work with folks who are likable. And
I mean, it creates a good work culture.
It creates a good work culture.
So if you're
Absolutely.
not, if you know.
And soft skills help with that.
I was going to say that those soft skills, those are the things that kind of connect that and make you into a person that people want to work with.
That's right. That's right.
I want to pivot just a bit and talk about your leadership, especially as it comes to peer power. What are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned in implementing these programs over the years? I mean, you started as a student tutor, a success coach, and now
Absolutely.
you're the CEO of Peer Power. What are some of those lessons or things that might have surprised you or changed the way you did things?
Yeah. So, again, because I was trained in this, Beale Stainer was the executive director. I was taught to build programs that respond to the needs of people, of young people. That's what I was taught. That's what I'm used to, right? I was taught that it may have worked in the past, but if it no longer works, you need to pivot. That's what I was taught. Sometimes what I've learned is we get married to past success and past programmatic infrastructure. And we're not willing to pivot. And that is shocking to me. Not shock. Shocking is not the word. It's irrational. It's irrational. So I am always surprised when folks know that things aren't working anymore and they're not willing to just take it back to the workshop and say, how do we need to transform this system so that we can get the intended results, right? And so that's what my leadership is about. My leadership is about building programs that respond to the needs of people, but it is also about building other leaders as well, right? Leaders produce leaders, managers produce workers. And that's what's important. So I'm always shocked when folks aren't willing, when leaders are not willing to be innovative. And what I've learned about innovation, Taylor Ann,
what?
Innovation is really about having the courage to do, in many instances, what is obvious to everyone, but folks don't have the courage to change the system.
And what you said is that people change, our environments change, our world change, and it's great to have good roots and good systems and processes in place. But if we aren't also adapting when things change and need to change, we're going to be stuck and we're going to stay in the same place forever. And that's not how we create a thriving city, a thriving next generation.
That's right. That's right.
We have to be willing to make the necessary changes.
That's exactly right. I'm excited about the investment that's being made into Beale Street, because Beale Street has not changed much at all since I grew up here, right? And I love the Beale Street sign.
Yeah.
That's still, it's
iconic.
Been there for a minute now. It's iconic, right? It was not always there. It's amazing how small things can make a difference. Charlie McVane and a crew of folks were instrumental about 10 years ago in the Big River Crossing.
Yeah.
Right? That is an amenity in this city that someone had to have vision for, someone had to work for and fight for. It's those types of changes that helps to make our place, our city, a tourism destination, drives billions of dollars annually. Tourism, right?
Yeah.
We need that type of innovation in education. And I'm shocked when people don't want to make those changes, when silos exist, all that kind of stuff. But, I'm optimistic, though. I am optimistic. I see connection with Brian Harris and youth services, the Mayor Paul Young, and many of the things that he's doing that he can advertise publicly, and some he can't advertise publicly. And we are Slingshot Memphis, who are gathering information on poverty-fighting organizations. And it's just, there's so much going on. FedEx is still committed to growth in this city and investing. LeMoyne-Owen College, also breaking news here. We have Peer Power Institute at the University of Memphis. You're going to hear it here on Talk Chamber. Coming up is Peer Power Institute at LeMoyne-Owen College with Dr. Christopher Davis.
Incredible. Congratulations.
That's it. Who says that LeMoyne-Owen should not be an afterthought. LeMoyne-Owen is an amenity and necessity in this city as well. And we should treat LeMoyne-Owen as such.
Indeed.
And I said I shall and I will. What can we do? Sign us up, Dr. Davis.
That is awesome. Congratulations. That's really exciting.
Yeah.
So in your current position as CEO, can you tell us about a time when things seemed unsure or you perhaps felt stuck? How did you navigate through that?
Let's just talk about it. We're talking about education in Memphis, Tennessee. And now this coffee has kicked in.
We're excited.
We're
ready.
talking about education in Memphis. And the question was a time when things seemed unsure. It's like, maybe I was put in this position for such a time as this because things have been unsure in education in Memphis for what feels like the last 3 years. We've had multiple school superintendents over the last decade. In the last 3 years, it seems that we've had 3 or 4 superintendents. Talk about a time when things are unsure, unsure. And so leaders, I learned, stand up under pressure, right? And optimism is important. And that is what I had to approach, how I had to approach our reality when we thought that the relationship with Memphis Shelby County Schools, which we have had formal relationship since 2015 in a very real way. The first 10 years, 14 years of Peer Power's existence, we had private philanthropic support because we wanted to proof the model, right? We didn't want to ask for government funds or whatever the case, public dollars, before we knew that it was a model that was worthy of taxpayer dollars, right? And so we appreciate the relationship, and right. So I was going forward in about a few years ago in good faith with that relationship, and then learned that a contract was not going to be continued, right? And I was 2 years, Taylor Ann, I was 2 months into my fiscal year, right? Ooh. So how do you bounce back when there's a $1.3 million void now in your budget, right? And so talk about standing up during those times. Of course, optimism is important, right? The other thing is I did say to the Lord, now, Lord, this thing can't fail under my watch, right? Not under my watch. It can't fail under my watch. So that was important. Faith has been super duper critical for this time. But also, faith without work is dead. And let me say, faith without good work is also dead. There are people in this city who know the value of Peer Power and said, this is a beneficial program to our city and to our state. And they rose at that time to say, hey, you've not traditionally been in charter schools. Come on over here to these charter schools. Terrence Patterson, the Memphis Education Fund, they understood the value. We also, Taylor Ann, have national funders. NBA Foundation, by way of Memphis Mentor Grizzlies, supported the organization in a huge fashion. Leon Lowenstein Foundation. We are part of the Partnership for Student Success, I told you, with Johns Hopkins University. There were national funders as well as local funders. I mean, it's just amazing to see. Peer power is a Memphis thing, and Memphis rose. Memphis rose during that time. Relationships matter. The state of Tennessee kicked in. My team was willing to be flexible. My board was willing to be flexible, right? And so my board is passionate. My board is passionate about the organization, as am I, right? And so that passion fueled our resilience. And here we are. We're standing today. And as you can tell, I told you earlier, we're expanding, right?
Yeah.
Because this thing can't die on my watch.
It's not going to.
It ain't going to die on my watch now.
This is awesome. Cortney, our time is almost up, but I've got one last question for you.
Yes.
If you could give one piece of advice to a young person struggling in school right now, or even somebody who wants to become a change maker in education, what would it be?
Keep going, right? Keep going. Don't stop. Don't give up. And I thought that there would be something more profound to say. But here's what I recognize. I recognize that your greatest contribution to someone else's success will be your ability to share your story in those times when things got hard for you, but you stuck with it. You kept going, right? Keep going. And just by virtue of you not stopping, you're going to have something to contribute even in the education space. The last thing I'll say is if you want to be an education leader, go and learn other models statewide, nationwide, internationally. Go and learn about those models. Here is why. Because there are things that people are doing in other places that we need to bring to Memphis. But let me tell you what else I've learned, Taylor. There are things that we're doing in Memphis that folks ain't doing nowhere else. And sometimes you'll get a standing ovation and a round of applause away before you get it at home. But Memphis is the type of place where if you're celebrated away and come back home, then we'll say, oh, look at what we have, right?
Wait a minute.
And we do that all the time, right? We do it in our personal relationships, friendships. You know, some of my friends were like, Cortney, when you going to believe me? When are you going to, when are you going to trust my word, right? And so we all do that. But just keep going and always learn. And learning what others are doing also gives you an opportunity to learn what others aren't doing. And it'll help you put your work in perspective. Yeah.
Awesome. Cortney, thank you so much for sharing your story and being here with us on the Talk Chamber.
Thank you for having me, Taylor Ann, and I hope to come back one.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Talk Chamber. We are so glad you're here with us. Cortney shared with us about the work at Peer Power and how that impacts the future of our workforce. If you enjoyed this episode or learned a valuable piece of information, share this episode with a friend or maybe even a colleague. Subscribe to the Talk Chamber to keep up with the latest on the Chamber, economic development, on all things Memphis. Follow us at social media at Memphis Chamber, and we'll see you next time.